Three men vanished into the freezing waters of San Francisco Bay on the night of June 11, 1962. To this day, the FBI has never been able to confirm whether they drowned or actually made it. What makes this story insane is not just that they escaped, but how they did it. With spoons, raincoats, and paper match heads so realistic that guards saw nothing unusual. If you think you know this story, I promise you, you do not know all of it. Stay with me. And hey, before we go any further, if you are into stories that keep you up at night, hit that subscribe button right now. We drop new cases every single week, and this one is just the beginning. Alcatraz was not just a prison, it was a statement. Built on a rocky island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, surrounded by freezing cold water, brutal currents, and over a mile to the nearest shore. It was designed to be the last stop for the most dangerous, escape-prone criminals in the American federal system. The government wanted people to understand that once you went in, you were not coming back out. Al Capone had been there. Machine Gun Kelly had been there. The message was simple. This is where the system puts you when everywhere else has failed to hold you. The water temperature hovered around 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. The currents were powerful. Guards did counts multiple times throughout the night. Watchtowers covered every angle. For 29 years of operation, the official position was that Alcatraz was escape-proof. Frank Morris had heard that before. Born in Washington, D.C. in 1926, he spent almost his entire life in institutions. He was placed in foster care as a child, started getting arrested as a teenager, and had escaped multiple facilities. He was not just tough, he was genuinely brilliant. IQ tests scored him between 133 and 140. He was methodical, patient, and looked at problems like puzzles, not obstacles. When he arrived at Alcatraz in January 1960, he did not see the most secure prison. He saw a problem that nobody had solved yet. He was not alone. Brothers John and Clarence Anglin grew up in a large farm family. Strong swimmers from childhood, they had robbed banks and attempted escapes before Alcatraz. A fourth man, Allen West, was also part of the plan from the beginning, though his role in the final escape would end in a way none of them expected. Together, these four men began planning what would become the most famous prison break. They started doing it in plain sight, right under the noses of the guards every single day for months. The plan centered on the utility corridor behind their cells, a narrow, cramped space rarely checked. The walls of their cells were concrete, weakening for years due to moisture and poor maintenance. Using spoons from the cafeteria, metal pieces, and whatever tools they could acquire, they began digging. Every night, after lights out, they dug into the concrete around the ventilation grates. The sound was covered by the noise of the prison, by music hour, by the general ambient sound. Every morning, before the guards made their rounds, they covered the holes with false concrete, made from soap, toothpaste, and whatever materials they could find. For months, nobody noticed a thing. But the physical escape was only half of the problem. Getting out of the cells meant nothing. If the guards noticed, they were missing before they reached the water. So while they dug, they also built. Using hair stolen from the barber shop, flesh-toned paint, and wire frames, they constructed dummy heads. They placed them in their beds each night. The level of detail was extraordinary. The hair was real, the coloring realistic, the positioning natural. Guards saw what they expected to see. The dummies bought them the window of time they needed. They also spent months collecting and hiding over 50 raincoats. These raincoats, stitched together using a homemade needle and thread, became two critical pieces of equipment. A large inflatable raft and life preservers. They used a modified accordion to inflate the raft. Every piece of this operation was engineered from nothing, planned over months, executed with discipline. On the night of June 11, 1962, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin climbed out of their cells, moved through the utility corridor, climbed to the roof, slid down a smokestack, scaled the fence, and made their way to the northeastern shore of the island. There they launched their improvised raft into the dark, freezing water of San Francisco Bay. Allen West was supposed to go with them. He had not finished widening his own hole in time. He was left behind. By the time guards discovered the escape the next morning and found the dummy heads, still propped in the beds, the three men had been gone for hours. What followed was one of the largest manhunts in FBI history. Every inch of the bay was searched. The surrounding shoreline was combed for evidence. A Norwegian vessel reported seeing a body floating in the water near the Golden Gate Bridge, but it was never recovered or identified. Pieces of the raft and a waterproof bag with photos and letters belonging to the Anglin brothers were found, washed up on Angel Island just north of Alcatraz. But the men themselves, nothing. No bodies, no confirmed sightings, no arrests. The FBI kept the case open for 17 years, before transferring it to the U.S. Marshals Service, which continues to list it as an active case to this day. And here is where it gets genuinely fascinating. In 2013, researchers from the Netherlands used sophisticated software to simulate the conditions of that specific night in June 1962, the exact water temperature, tidal patterns, wind conditions. Their conclusion was that if the men had launched their raft between 11 p.m. and midnight and paddled north toward the Marin headlands, it was not only possible but likely they could have made it to shore. A 2015 letter, claimed to have been sent by John Anglin himself, was submitted to the San Francisco Police Department. The writer claimed all three had survived, that two had died in recent years from cancer, and that the writer himself was willing to turn himself in for medical treatment. Handwriting analysis was inconclusive. The FBI investigated and ultimately could not verify or dismiss it. The Anglin family has maintained for decades that the brothers survived. Relatives say they received Christmas cards. A photograph surfaced showing two men in Brazil in 1975 who bore a striking resemblance to the brothers. Former U.S. Marshal Donald Ness stated publicly that he believed all three men made it, and that the brothers likely lived out their lives in Brazil. The FBI disputes this, the U.S. Marshals dispute this. And the truth is that after more than 60 years, nobody knows for certain what happened to Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers after they pushed off from that rocky shore into the dark water. What we do know is this: three men, armed with spoons and raincoats and extraordinary intelligence, walked out of the most secure prison in America and vanished so completely that one of the most powerful law enforcement agencies has spent over 6 decades looking for answers. Whether they drowned in the bay or sat on a beach in Brazil watching the sun go down, completely free, is a question that may never be answered. And honestly, that ambiguity is what makes this the most haunting escape story. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think they made it? I genuinely want to know what you think. And share this with someone who loves a great mystery, because this one deserves to be talked about. Subscribe to Wild Tales Animation for new cases every week, and I will see you in the next one.